Why do you just keep staying in the background? You know you're capable of doing so much more, and yet you just don't allow yourself to do it. You look at other people who might be more ahead of you and you say that you can do it, but then you just keep staying back. In this video, I'm gonna break down to you why it is you might be doing that and what you can do about it. Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, my name is Bennett Schwartz. I'm here to share some ideas that have helped me move the needle just a little bit, and I hope you find them beneficial. So recently, a father reached out to me and told me that his son has so much potential, and I know a parent can never say that to their child about all the potential that they have, because every parent thinks their child has so much potential, but he was saying that his child really has certain talents that he would never want to step into, whether it was his beautiful voice that he was able to sing with, or maybe he was getting onto the basketball court and being a real leader out there. And yet so many times this child wasn't able to take that action and always just liked to float in the background. He would check off the boxes in terms of making himself sure that he was a good kid, but then he wouldn't take the initiative ever to really step into it. And the father reached out to me and asked me my advice in terms of what is it he can do. And what's interesting is that I found myself in a very similar situation when I was younger. You see, I had GBS, which is also known as good boy syndrome. And it was something that I would always be able to do, but I would never be the initiative. I would never be the one in the front. And based on a few little tricks that I've learned over the years, I was able to really help build my self-esteem, which I'm still working on, and allow myself to build the confidence to do so many different things in my life. And here's a list of some of them. So the first thing we need to understand is that what's really happening behind the scenes in our subconscious is that we have a low self-esteem or a low self-worth. And yes, those two things are totally different. Self-esteem are some wins in your life that you are able to look at and say, I worked hard at it, I was able to accomplish it, and then all of a sudden I feel better about myself because there's certain areas of my life that I feel good about myself. And on the other hand, self-worth is an intrinsic value that you believe in yourself regardless of what accolades you might have, no matter what, you believe in you because you are you, and that's what's up, and that's what's going on there. And very often I find people who have this situation where they're not able to step forward and not really step into the roles that they really can step into. It's they don't think that they belong, they don't think that they can do those things. And it really comes from this fact that they have such a low self-esteem and a low self-worth. And what we need to try to do is we need to try to understand and build a situation in our minds that we have the ability to be doing certain things. And one of the easiest ways for us to build our self-esteem is just to take the action that we know we can be taking. So whether it's waking up in the morning, the time we want to wake up, it's doing the things we want to be doing throughout our day, and just make sure that we're checking off those boxes throughout. Because once we are able to do that, then we can start feeling good about ourselves that we're doing X, Y, and Z. And yes, sometimes we're going to need to have that courage to really take that action and move forward. But by doing that, we're going to be able to really understand who it is that we are and take advantage of all the different things that we want to be taking advantage of. So many of us are just not living an ideal life day to day. And yes, maybe there are certain situations that we need to wait for, whether you're single and want to be married, or you're working and you want to finally become successful financially. But understand that day to day, we do have the ability to be taking the action that it is necessary to be getting to those places. And as long as we're doing that, that's going to help build ourselves up to feel good about ourselves that we're doing those things. And we're going to be more inclined to take more uncomfortable action that is necessary in order to be able to do the things that we want to be doing and be in that position that we want to be being. A second thing that I recognize is that many times people in this situation really hold themselves back. They're constantly playing defense as opposed to offense. They never want to be in the front, but when things start to happen to them, they can start to maneuver around to allow themselves to be okay and be in with the cool kids. They might not be the most popular kid, they might not be the kid all the way in the back of the classroom, but you know what? They might be that kid who is raising his hand just enough, but maybe could be doing a little bit more. He's maybe a B student or maybe A- student because he's just trying to float. He's not trying to be the front or whatnot. And it was interesting because when I used to coach high school basketball, there's this one player who never joined the basketball team. And I was always so curious. He was the most talented player. And every time I would ask him why he wanted to play, he would just brush off, I don't have time. And he would just make all the excuses in the world. And I saw that he was really passionate about playing, and I was so confused why it is that he wanted. And it was interesting because he would really come to all the basketball games, so it wasn't like he really didn't have enough time. And I saw that he would trash talk with the other teams and would say, if I was on the team, you guys would lose by so much more and this and that. And what I really found interesting is that he was so scared to put himself out there and to become the face of the basketball team, and he would have been the best player on the team. To me as a coach, it was really frustrating, but for him as a student, it was probably even more frustrating that he knew he had such potential and wasn't able to get himself out there. But that was his safety net to say, you know what, regardless of what's going on the outside, I'm not going to put myself out there, and that's going to feel more safe to me. And honestly, it was so sad to see him not be able to take that action, even though I knew he wanted it so much. And this takes me to my next point. The people who just float in the background don't like to be vulnerable and don't like to open themselves up. And this could be because sometime in the past they have done that and they were hurt, or it could just be they don't like that feeling of just saying something that, it just feels like they're allowing other people into their life. And what we have to realize is that everybody's going through something. Everyone has their own stuff that's going on. And on the outside, it might look like everyone's living a perfect life, But honestly, it's just not true. People's situations are different. The way they handle them is the real test. And for people with good boy syndrome, they are constantly looking and challenging and comparing themselves to other people. And by doing that, they are just deflating themselves even more. But what we have to realize is that you have to be true to yourself. You have to be able to get your personality out there. And by doing that, you have the ability to take the action to do the stuff that you want to be doing. Just because you don't have it going on doesn't mean you're the only one. We all are trying to figure it out and really make it happen. And by understanding that, we might give us just a little bit permission to allow ourselves to be able to move forward and to take that action. That being said, if you found this video at all helpful, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. The fourth idea that we need to understand and really start to think about is, what is our relationship with failure? You see, for many people, failure is very difficult. But for somebody who's like this, who's someone who can't even put themselves in a position where they can fail, they might be petrified of failure. It could also be because of some type of failure that they had in the back and they got reprimanded by somebody that they really love and care about. But understanding that if we don't ever put ourselves out there, we're never going to be able to do anything that is really worth doing. Think about it. Anything that you're so proud of yourself that you have done in the past might have come naturally to you, but only because you worked and you put yourself out there so much. And if we could start to say, hey, what are those things in my own life that I know that I really want to do, and I'll be so proud of myself if I would be able to do it, then all of a sudden we have this ability to start to move forward and take that action. Why is it that so many people are so scared to take the action? It's because of this fear of failure. And all we have to realize is that if we could start to move forward slowly and recognize that failure is just feedback, that could start to shift everything. We cannot be scared and we cannot allow ourselves to not take any action because the possibility that something might go wrong. And that's the difference between nerves and excitement. You see, when somebody gets nervous, it's only because they're focusing on all the things that can go negatively, all the things that might be happening that might go wrong. And on the other side, we have to realize that if somebody wants to be able to take the action and get excited about it, you have the ability to take that action and to get more excited. However, you have to realize that you have the ability to move forward and to do the things that you want, because you're going to focus on the things that can go right. Think about it. You're about to give a presentation, and instead of thinking about all the times you're going to forget your line, or you might crack, or you might, who knows, you might fall, whatever it might be, think about the impact that you might be having on the people. Think about the way that you can deliver an amazing story or presentation, and it changes the whole way that we're going to be thinking about it. So what is it that you're doing? How is it that you're perceiving failure? And are we looking at it as failure, or are we looking at it as feedback? So what are we supposed to do about this? How are we supposed to take ourselves if we feel uncomfortable and we put ourselves in the front to allow ourselves to take that action? We know we're capable and to do that thing. We have to realize that we have to stop focusing on ourselves. You see, on the one hand, we might have such a low self-esteem and a low self-worth, but on the other hand, you're being a little selfish. You see, if you could start focusing on all the impact that you can be making and all the change that you could be making and the effect that you can be having with the people around you, that could make such a difference. You keep thinking about yourself and how you can't do this and I can't put myself out there and I might fail. But what about all the people you might be changing, all the lives you might be affecting? That is what we have to start to think about. So the next time you have an opportunity to do something, to sing, to give a presentation, to get out there, to go introduce yourself to somebody, recognize that maybe for you it might be scary, but for somebody else, that one other person might be changing their whole entire life. If we could start focusing on the other people and not ourselves, it's going to take so much pressure off of ourselves, and recognize that even though it's going to be uncomfortable and even though we might not be in the mood, we have to take action in spite of that fear. And that's the definition of courage. If you want to be a courageous person, if you want to be able to do the things that you want to be doing, it's not about not being scared. It's being scared and in spite of the fear, taking that action. And if you're somebody who has a tough time with confidence, make sure to take a look at this next video where we talk about just that.